Hi friends, today is a very special episode because we're talking about my favorite and the objectively best guard regiment, the Cadian shock troopers. Cadians are the poster boys of the Imperial Guard, and for good reason. Everyone thinks they're just boring vanilla lamos that represent the guard, but they're actually super cool. They're the poster boys for a reason, and goddammit, vanilla's a good flavor. Also, be prepared. This is my favorite faction. So, if you ever went to a Krispy Kreme and watched the donut making process, well, you know that funky little step after the fryer? Yeah, that's exactly what this video is going to be for roughly 15 minutes. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The Cadian shock troopers are the elite guardsmen who originated from the lost world of Cadia. They are one of the best, if not the best warriors in the entire Imperium. The world of Cadia was not always lost, and before it fell, it was the mightiest fortress world after Holy Terra itself. And before it was the mightiest fortress world after Holy Terra itself, it was just a middling fortress world, presumably also less mighty than Holy Terra. And before it was a middling fortress world, presumably also less mighty than Holy Terra, it was a filthy degenerate world full of filthy degenerate chaos worshippers. But the Chaos Cultists fortunately went extinct with the help of some cyclonic torpedoes, and that cleared the way for the Imperials to establish Cadia into a legendary fortress world we knew and loved prior to its tragic fall. Cadia and the Cadian shock troopers' claim to fame was guarding the entrance to literal space hell for damn near 10,000 years. Since they were tasked with defending the only good passage out of the Eye of Terror, the Cadians developed a strong warrior culture and became some of the greatest guardsmen ever. Every part of Cadian culture and society was militarized. Their government was based on military merit, their cities were labyrinthine fortresses, and their child soldiers were even younger than the average Imperial child soldier. Woohoo! You see, many guardsmen begin their training in their teens. In contrast, pretty much the instant they're able to, Cadian children are taught how to fight. They're commonly said to be able to strip and shoot lasguns before they could even write. That means we got little Cadian Tim over here casually shooting assault rifles at age 5. This also means that the age that most other guardsmen would start their training, Cadians have over a decade of experience. Then, after their extensive childhood training, every teenager is sent to serve in the White Shields platoon for further training. Presumably, they're called the White Shields because it's a platoon of pubescent teenagers. Here, they do live fire practice, field training exercises, and have core Cadian values instilled in them. Cadian culture highly emphasizes marksmanship, discipline, teamwork, and of course the other Imperial values like self-sacrifice, resilience, extreme xenophobia, etc., etc. Additionally, somewhat uniquely, they're given a basic education on chaos and the perils of the warp. This gives them a rather unique resistance to chaos taint and a greater resolve in battle. And their training is some of the highest quality training in the entire Imperium. So every Cadian shock trooper is roughly at the level of a special forces operative from our world, if not better. Speaking of better, the White Shields who show the most promise are sent to the even top of the line training in order to become the coolest dudes in the galaxy, the Kazarkin. Woo! More on them later. So, after their time in the White Shields, Cadian is trained to be a proper shock trooper and then sent to various battlefields to fight for the glory of the Imperium. Furthermore, Cadian officers are all promising White Shields or veterans who rose to the ranks through battlefield feats. They find the idea of an officer learning stuff in school, like a nerd, rather than in battle, to not only be dumb, but also silly. But speaking of officers, you know what officers tend to do? They dispense tactics like some kind of tactic dispensing machine of some sort. Cadians, they have some of the best tactical minds in all of the Guard. Legendary commanders like the Ultra Mega Chad, Lord Castellan, Ursarkar Krieg, his daughter Ursula Krieg, and the indomitable Knight Commander Pask all hail from the world of Cadia. But beyond that, what tactics do these tactical geniuses tactic with? Well, the Cadian shock troopers are one of the few regiments trusted to field combined arms regiments. You see, after the heresy, the armies of the Imperium were highly segmented so that no one regiment would have the means to rebel and cause major damage like Mr. Heresy did. This is why the Space Marine legions were broken into smaller chapters. This also means that usually guard regiments are highly specialized. For example, artillery, tanks, and infantry would all be separated in their own regiments and made to work with the others. However, due to the importance of their job and their legendary track record, the Cadians are allowed to field combined arms regiments that are more readily able to respond to threats. A typical Cadian regiment will have a corps of shock troopers supported by tank, artillery, and other special companies. This makes for an extremely efficient fighting force with unparalleled cohesion and flexibility since every battlefield role is under the same regimental command. Castellan Creed's personal regiment, the Cadian 8th, is the epitome of Cadian combined arms tactics, and they continue to kick ass after nearly being wiped out in the 13th Black Crusade and losing Lord Castellan Creed. Then, on a smaller scale, Cadian tactics revolve around coherent shock trooper squads, flanking enemy positions, holding objectives, and basically whatever else is needed. The Cadians' focus on squad cohesion and a tactical approach means that they're generally more efficient man for man. These squad tactics also mean that Cadians have an abnormally high survival rate and have the highest amount of veterans of all the guard regiments. So, knowing 40k, that's probably like 10 guardsmen. Just kidding, I low-key hate the guardsmen all being useless meatbags who last 5 seconds and then die memes. Some can be useless meatbags, but not all of them, please. Cadians also specialize in urban warfare and shock tactics. Big shocker there. But their biggest strength is that they're the jack-of-all-trades regiment, able to do pretty much anything well. So I guess Cadians specialize in adaptability and, well, being the best. Which I suppose specializing in being generalized isn't really a specialization, or it might be. I don't know. Feel free to call me a dumb fool and tell me why Krieger specializing in banging shovels is just so much better in the comments below. But, of course, at the end of the day, Cadians are guardsmen and they're willing to sacrifice themselves to protect the Imperium. In the face of hopeless odds, Cadians stand defiant and will fight till the very end. Hell, they literally lived at the gate of space hell for 10 millennia. The planet broke before the Guard did is a literally true statement. But on the other end of the cannon fodder spectrum, let's talk about the Cadian Special Unit. That's right, we're back to the coolest dudes ever, the Kazarkin. Woo! The Kazarkin are the best troopers of the best regiment of the best faction. I made a whole video about Imperial Stormtroopers, but the basics are that the Kazarkin are the elites of the Cadians and are either talented and promising white shields or veteran shock troopers who receive extra training and better equipment to kick extra ass. Kazarkin originated as the key protectors of Cadian fortress cities called Khazars, but now they fight across the galaxy as the best soldiers a regular human can possibly be. They've got literally peak strength, peak speed, peak reflexes, and peak combat intellect. Their only second is Space Marines, but they still get Space Marine jobs done and they efficiently kill Marines. Speaking of killing, they typically carry hell guns or hotshot las guns if you're lame, which are basically upcharged las guns that can punch through most armor like it's, some easily meltable thing. I don't know. I probably could have figured out a butter analogy, but it's okay. They also commonly take special weapons like plasma, melta, grenade launchers, volley guns, and more depending on the mission. And just like their mother regiment, the Kazarkin are super versatile and basically do whatever task is needed from them. They can provide heavy firepower on the front lines, serve as rapid assault drop troopers, or carry out spec op missions in elite kill teams. Kazarkin are respected across the galaxy, and they're even requested by inquisitors, rogue traders, imperial lords, and other notable figures to serve as their bodyguards or elite strike teams. And these notable figures need to be deemed worthy of the Kazarkin working for them. Yeah, they don't need a test if the Kazarkin are qualified to work for them. They need to be deemed worthy of the Kazarkin service. Badass. And fun cherry on top is that this little lore fact made the ridiculous difficulty buying Kazarkin the year of release lore accurate. Perhaps you simply weren't worthy of having a Kazarkin kill team in your service, and that's why GW wouldn't let you spend your 60 buckaroos on one. On top of the Kazarkin, Cadians also have a special pattern of Sentinel that has extra armor, and their shock troops favor grenade launchers and autocannons for their versatility. But finally, the big question. Why do I think that the Cadians are the best? Well, because they literally are. Jokes aside, though, Cadians are probably the single best regiment across the board due to the simple fact that they're just so dang versatile. You can drop them on literally any battlefield and they'll get the job done. Yeah, Catachan are badass and probably have the strongest guard characters around, but put them in the flat hellhole that is the American Midwest, and I don't think their Rambo guerrilla antics will work all that well. Valhallans, they're super cool, pun intended, but put them in the blazing desert and they'll make like a hiker visiting Vegas. That's to say they'll have a heat stroke and demonstrate why Death Valley is called Death Valley. Or drop a Krieger in a therapist's office, and I don't know, they'd probably self-implode. The Cadians' versatility is invaluable to an empire as large as the Imperium. They have about 1 million worlds, one bad day away from being eaten by aliens, indoctrinated by Satan, or even just discovering the far-flung concept of worker rights. So, having a regiment that can effectively fight on any world with relatively short notice is a huge and necessary asset. That's why across the galaxy, many regiments treat the Cadians as an aspirational regiment and try to model their doctrines and equipment after the shock troops. Not because they're the absolute best at everything, but because they're good enough at anything. It's good to have specialists, but you need the generalists to keep things together. But, my Kriegers are cooler than the Cadians because they can fight in trudging wars of attrition lasting decades. Cool flex, bro, but my Cadians would simply win the war in a timely manner. But they're willing to die in the millions to accomplish anything. Newsflash, dummy. You gotta be alive to fight for the Emperor. But my unyielding resolve. Cadians literally shot at spaceships with lasguns while their planet crumbled at their feet. Shovels! And that, my friends, is what we like to call a straw man. Very effective when I'm the one making the video and no one can tell me I'm wrong. But finally, let's address the War Master chaos in the room. Yes, Cadia did eventually fall in the 13th Black Crusade. Ha! How could they be the best if they'd lost? Loser regiment! Wrong! Hypothetically, let's consider a pair of jeans. They're purchased by the average Redditor, and for 10,000 years, they're the best pants ever. They're stylish, they're comfortable, and best of all, they don't burst under the, immense aura of the Redditor. But then, one day, the Redditor launches a steamy Blackstone load out of his Eye of Terror, and then the jeans finally rip. Does that make them bad jeans? No, I don't think so. Any force in the galaxy would have eventually faltered after 10,000 years of relentless assaults from literal hell. The fact that the Cadians stood strong for that long is insanely impressive. In the current time, Cadia was lost, but Cadia stands since the survivors of Cadia and Cadians who were deployed elsewhere keep the culture alive and have re-established new colonies to train more shock troops. They continue to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, regiments in the entire Imperium. Also, anyone who says that Cadia doesn't stand because the planet fell is literally missing the point of the quote. Cadia stands because, just like their other iconic quote says, the people of Cadia literally outlasted their planet and are keeping the culture and legend of their regiment alive. The Cadians took a massive blow with the loss of their planet, but their sheer indomitable human spirit allowed them to live on and continue to serve the Imperium. But with that out of the way, here's a couple of fun Cadian facts. Cadians have purple eyes due to their former proximity to the Eye of Terror. There's a Cadian sergeant named Lucas Bastone who has perfect memory and tattooed the name of every guardsman who ever died under his command underneath his armor. And finally, Cadians also use gallows humor to cope with how sad their lives are. So, Gen Z rejoice, Cadians are truly the regiment of the people. But yeah, that's my overview of the best regiment of all time. Feel free to tell me how stupid I am, how boring the Cadians are, and why your favorite regiment is totally objectively better than my favorite regiment. But just remember, everyone always forgets the full quote. A jack of all trades is a master of none, but that's often better than a master of one. Cadians #1, baby! Let's go! Woo! And it's actually been a while since I covered the Guard, so I want to make kind of a big return with my favorite boys. In the future, I'll have to expand on the iconic Cadian characters like Pask, Creed, and other Creed. But for now, that's all I got. Thank you for watching, and thank you to my awesome patrons who help the channel grow and help me make cool videos. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your literally the best guardsmen ever. Thanks. Also, I don't actually hate the Krieg. Their memes are just super cringe, and they're less cool Vostroyans with blue Steel Legion uniforms who do the Cult of Death thing less cool than the Janissaries. But as an apology to all the Krieg fans, maybe I'll cover them in the next Guard video. Or maybe I'll do Steel Legion instead, who knows.